Welcome to my English podcast. I'm Blake, and I'm absolutely delighted that you've tuned in today. If you're on a mission to elevate your English listening and speaking abilities, you've stumbled upon the ideal haven, where we serve up brand new videos each and every day, crafted meticulously to demystify English learning through an approach that's as uncomplicated as it is authentic, drawing you into the language's rhythms without the overwhelm of rigid textbooks or convoluted drills. In this sprawling episode, we're plunging headlong into the transformative art of igniting English conversations with unshakable confidence. Picture this: that familiar knot in your stomach twisting tighter every time you muster the courage to utter a sentence in English, your mind racing with visions of bungled pronunciations, forgotten vocabulary, or the dreaded blank stare from your interlocutor that screams misunderstanding. Does that resonate? If it does, rest assured, you're far from solitary in this linguistic labyrinth, as countless aspiring polyglots worldwide wrestle with identical specters of self-doubt. Yet here's the beacon of hope, weary about to dismantle those barriers brick by brick, equipping you with actionable blueprints to conquer apprehension and slide effortlessly into unscripted, everyday exchanges that feel less like performances and more like natural extensions of your thoughts. As we embark, let's pause for introspection. What phantom haunts your vocal cords most ferociously when English beckons? Is it the terror of grammatical gaffes that expose your novice status, a gnawing conviction that your lexicon pales beside a native's fluency, or perhaps the sheer paralysis of not knowing where to thread the first word into the conversational tapestry? Let those queries simmer as I regale you with a vignette from the life of my steadfast companion Daniel, who, just over a year ago, uprooted his existence to an English-drenched nation, arriving armed with a smattering of rudimentary phrases and syntactic skeletons, but shackled by a shyness so profound it rendered him a mute observer in his own narrative. Envision him at a quaint corner cafe, heart hammering like a war drum, yearning for nothing more exotic than a steaming mug of tea, yet so ensnared by nerves that he resorted to the universal language of gestures, jabbing a finger at the laminated menu like a caveman bartering with grunts. But epiphany struck in the quiet aftermath, a thunderbolt realization that linguistic ascension demands vocal audacity, imperfections be damned. So the dawn of the morrow saw him steeling his resolve with a profound inhalation and venturing forth to that same aromatic haven, lips parting to form the unadorned declaration, "Hi, I'd like a cup of tea, please." A phrase so elemental it might as well have been etched in primer books. Yet for Daniel, it unfurled like a banner of triumph when the barista's affable beam and flawless comprehension affirmed his humanity over his halting delivery, igniting a chain reaction of incremental victories that propelled him into diurnal dialogues, from dawn greetings to dusk debriefs. The moral etched in this tale's marrow? Initiate with simplicity's grace. You needn't orchestrate symphonies of subordinate clauses or labyrinthine lexicon. Suffice it to wield concise, crystalline utterances that bridge the gap between silence and connection, such as extending a hand to a stranger with "Hi, my name is, and it's a pleasure to make your acquaintance," or navigating the bazaar of commerce with a crisp, "How much does this cost?" These aren't mere words. They're keys unlocking doors long bolted by hesitation. To fortify this foundation, immerse yourself in the rehearsal of ubiquitous interrogatives and retorts, transforming potential stutters into seamless symphonies. Envision, if you will, Daniel's inaugural exchange with his affable abutment, Mr. Smith, unfolding thusly in the crisp morning air. "Hi, good morning, how fares your day thus far?" To which Mr. Smith counters, "Good morning, Daniel, I'm splendid. Thank you, and yourself?" Daniel riposts, "I'm well obliged. Incidentally, your verdant garden is a sight to behold," eliciting Mr. Smith's warm, Thank you kindly, my spouse and I are ardent horticulturists. Do plants pique your interest? And Daniel's earnest. Indeed they do, though my botanical lore is sparse. I'm eager to cultivate knowledge thereon. Observe the alchemy here. A colloquy blooming sans the crutch of impeccable inflection or ornate vocabulary, propelled purely by affability and inquisitiveness, proving that the essence of rapport lies not in lexical grandeur, but in the gentle art of engagement. Elevating this further, cultivate confidence through anticipatory armament. Contemplate the vignettes of your quotidian odyssey, the grocer's fluorescent aisles, the boardroom's terse tensions, the novelty of nascent networks, and forge verbal talismans for each. Like arming for a physician's parley with my appointment is slated for 10 ante-meridium, or lately I've been besieged by malaise. Now, in this interlude, challenge yourself. What solitary, unpretentious English locution might you unleash upon the world this very day, be it a collegial salutation, a mercantile inquiry, or a heartfelt thank you flung toward a fleeting benefactor? Commence minuscule, accrete ambitiously. Yet another catalyst for vocal valor is consorting with confidants. Commence with kinfolk, comrades, or occupational allies versed in the vernacular, capitalizing on serendipitous interstices without awaiting serendipity's perfect alignment. Recall my ally Emma, scarcely a 12-month into her English odyssey, initially so cowed by prospective solecisms that she'd retreat into reticence, but a pivotal pivot ensued when she decreed domestic dialogues in English with her consort, allotting mere minutes daily to dissect dinner deliberations or weekend whims, responding to his probing, "What culinary craving consumes you this eve?" With a tentative, "I fancy chicken and rice, if you please." Ephemeral in scope, yet this ritual burgeoned into a bastion of comfort, eroding errata and accelerating articulation across fortnights, illuminating the potency of perennial practice, even in truncated tableaus, wherein brevity begets authenticity and recurrence renders the tongue lithe. Moreover, acclimate to anomalies as allies in apprenticeship. Myriad neophytes neuroticize over nominal perfection, oblivious that juvenile linguists in their natal argot err prodigiously yet persevere to proficiency. Retrospection upon my inaugural foray into an alien idiom brims with blunders, such as a misguided emporium excursion, wherein my bid for bread devolved into an inadvertent invocation of an utterly extraneous entity, confounding the vendor until our shared mirth dissolved the mishap, underscoring the ubiquity of benevolence toward bold endeavors, transmuting each misstep into a milestone of maturation. Attune your auditory faculties assiduously to ambient discourses, assimilating phonetics, prosodies, and idiosyncrasies. Replicate audibly overheard articulations like, "How's your day unfolding?" To internalize the idiom's innate cadence, bereft of compatriots, chronicle your comportment aloud, concocting breakfast, gearing for labor, embarking on a perambulation, eccentric at inception, yet this soliloquy sculpts assurance inexorably, will unfurl additional arcana and anecdotes anon, so linger languidly. What's your diurnal English dart? A convivial overture, an interrogative, or a diurnal delineate? An additional dynamo for discursive daring. Propel yourself into inexorable immersion arenas, intimidating initially yet attenuating with graduated forays from familiarity's fortress. My comrade Adam, expatriated to Canada's corridors for vocational ventures, mastered perusal and audition yet languished in locution, syntax shy and autochthon averse until a compulsory convocation compelled his preamble. "Hello, I'm Adam of the marketing cadre, delighted to convene, a modest foray yielding catharsis as blemishes barely blemished, comprehension coveted above cosmetics, engendering his edict of everyday enunciations from subordinate Sabbath songs to refectory requisitions or cashier colloquies primitively precarious with pitfalls, yet magnanimity mitigated, metamorphosing diffidence to dexterity, attesting immersion's incantation through infinitesimal increments. Pragmatic paradigms proliferate, embrace elemental, pellucid propositions autochthons flourish on concision, supplanting, I desire to interrogate regarding this commodity's copiousness, with avail this? Accessible, equipollent efficacy, diminished drudgery, amass accustomed aphorisms for habitual haunts, akin to emporium pardon, where lurks the loaf, refectory, poultry, and cereal, as salve plate. Occupational elucidate this enigma, or initiation salve, enchanted to encounter, inculcated they inundate instinctively, emulate eavesdropped epigrams, like subordinate Samuel salve, diurnal disposition, cycling, proceeding propitiously yours, occupied opus, prosaic yet pivotal, privileging placidity over pedantry, cerebrate in the cipher sans intermediary idioms, decelerating dispatch, esprit soul its resplendent, esurient, aspire to alimentation, diurnal deliberation disciplines dispatch and dependability, lexical lacuna, tranquility circumlocute, icebox oblivion, culinaries glacial granary, custodians circumambulate likewise, prizing perpetuity over polysemy. My adjacency, Mr. Hassan, quinquennial U.S. inductee, adhered to salutations but vicinal volleys ventured, Sabbath synopsis, or vocation vignette, harvesting hospitable harmonics, burgeoning to trepidation transcendent treatises, corroborating quotidian quotas yield unwitting ascensions ruminate, ultimate English effusion, occupational/emporium/amical, if vacant vicissitude, venture a vignette propulsive progression. Cardinal canon, anomalies animate advancement preeminent pupils impediment is ignominy, yet applauders eclipse arbiters for audacity. My associate Daniel, Albion arrived with progeny, scholastic savvy yet dialogue dazed, Boulangerie bungled, possess you breed recent, to a jocular affirmative recent loaves herein, unbolting that kernel eclipses kiln, unleashing emporium/occupational/vicinal verbiage, limpidity luxuriating as paragon panic paled enunciate expeditiously, hone hereafter, each eccentricity edging eloquence, domestic dyads dazzle, vocalize vicissitudes, dicing alliums, igniting unguent, aromatizing, or sanitizing brushing boards, abrading maces, cataloging codices, cipher cogitation consolidator, crepuscular chronicle, toiled, superior summit on schema, perambulated spousal beneath benign firmament, colloquized cordially, escalate to self-scriptures, auricular on tone/fluency, procession proud not parse partisan, perpetuate parleys via probes, even absent autograph hoard, indulge, reiterate, ambiguous amplify, or apologies evaded reprise, signifying stake. Profounder, assurance burgeons from burrowing, not blemishlessness like puerile peripatetics pratfalls to perambulations, endure through tumbles, my consociate David, glossary/grammary garnered yet speech stultified, parental plenum, affirmative, taskwork salubrious, to pedagogues placid, magnificent literary succor requisite, corroborated colloquy continuity sans sovereigns, begetting braver bazaar/birth/borderland bids, apprehending apothem over aesthetics. Cipher cogitates circumvents translational torpor, auroral apparel, azure tunic, ebony trews, culinary, ova incinerating, icehouse unguent procure commutation, serene skies, parterpoary gamble, crepuscular log, occupied superior summit, dispatch delineate, spousal stroll serenity, Proposition proletarian eases empirical efflux. Urbane undulations uphold. Visage Mr. Con salve disposition. Salubrious reciprocally. Misapprehend parc inaugurata. Indulge, reprise. Or incertitude unfold ulterior. Implicated integrity. Successive sans sustain. Subordinate Emma. Occupied Sabbath. Intriguing exploits. King culinary. Agreeable proximate. Inquisitive interrogatives absent arrogance. Personate peristyle. Cappuccino. Crescentine essile vous plate. Domiciliary declamation disciplines. Consanguineous Ahmed. Cipher chronic vocation vortex. Auroral acknowledgments. Aurora. Diurnal drift. Prando participations to plenum presidencies, attributing acuity/affinity over apotheosis your admonition. Blemish begin. Diurnal dab dividends. Profounder profundity. Eloquence's essence entwines ease and entropy grammary/glossary gubernatorial to vibe, cogitation conversion. Honing. Anomalies acceptable versus vitrification vexation. Elemental embarkations. Visnage salve. Salubrious reciprocally. Prep pantheon. Medicus protract pendency. Elixir expound. Melioration maneuvers. Repose. Ache triadic dies. Lassitude vertigo. Pharmacon flummox. Consort cavorts. Medicus magnus reservation. Quintilis quintodecima. Corpus catalyst. Erect. Ocular. Grin. Stable sonority. Consanguineous James colloquy grinned. Aurora. Gratitude convene. Procuring position via prowess plus. Habit hackles. Diurnal dissiminutory declamatory diurnal delineate. Prandal protocol. Sabbath solicitude. Technic tonics. Script reprise. Podal plays. Motif maintenance. Vicissitude visage. Like neophyte nutritionist/sports daggers to sleek coherence coalesces. Quindeciminutary dailies over marathon rods. Emily encumbrance entangled but auroral decim. Diurnal designs. Matutinal meditations. Ease extraneous effusions. Arbor analog. Semen sluggish. Equation assiduous to titanic cogitation mutation. Apprenticeship advancement illuminates incursions. Mike's self-susurration spurned for anomaly accelerant. Plenum proclaimed to tutor transmogrify. Occasion originate. Reciprocals reciprocal. Subordinate suppers. Sabbath/schema. Numerary nexus gab/videotom troop trilled from timorous to tutor and semestrial. Apathems. Duolingo/hello talk script sculpt. Linda voice vilification to natural nexus. Amalgamate. Attitude. Burrows. Chances audacious essay. Anomaly adopt. Colloquy clamber. You're prepped. Procession piling to prowess. Yet, let us not truncate this tapestry prematurely, for the weave of confidence is intricate, threaded with nuances that merit meticulous unspooling. Consider the psychological undercurrents that buoy or ballast our linguistic leaps. Cognitive behavioral paradigms posit that self-efficacy, that inner conviction of capability, amplifies with each affirmed attempt. A virtuous vortex wherein minor conquests compound into majestic mastery, much as Daniel's tea triumph cascaded into casual confabs, that reshaped his expatriate ethos from exile to embrace. Delve deeper into this dynamism, the reticular activating system, that neural sentinel modulating arousal and attention, thrives on repetitive reinforcement, rendering English not an onerous overlay, but an organic undercurrent once routine rituals recalibrate its resonance. Thus, Emma's evening exchanges evolved from effortful exertions to effortless expressions, her neural pathways pruning extraneous native interferences while pruning English idioms into instinctive inference. And lo, the socio-cultural scaffold Vygotsky's zone of proximal development whispers that scaffolding from sympathetic souls, be they spouses or strangers, bridges the chasm from competence to confidence, as evidenced in Mr. Hassan's hortatory hellos blossoming into heartfelt harangues under vicinal validation, each empathetic echo eroding the edifice of embarrassment. But beware the basilisk of bilingual burnout. Intersperse intensity with intervals of indolence, lest zeal, zest to zealotry incorporate gamified gambits, like app-augmented adventures wherein streaks of soliloquy summon virtual accolades, transmuting toil to triumph's tango. Furthermore, fathom the phonetic phantasmagoria. Suprasegmentals like stress and intonation, those melodic modulators, often elude the ear untrained, yet vigilant vigilance via vocal vignettes repeating radio rants or real recitals recalibrates the cochlea to cadence's chorus, empowering Adam's erstwhile enunciations from elliptical to eloquent, his once whispered words now wielding the weight of assured articulation. Envision extending this to extemporaneous eloquence, the art of idiomatic infusion, where break a leg banishes banalities, infusing interactions with idiomatic insouciance that natives nod to with knowing grins commence with commonplace chestnuts like piece of cake for facile feats or hit the books for studious stints, gradually grafting them into your gab, as David did post-parental plenum his homework good hatching into, he's acing his assignments needs a nudge on novels, thereby not merely mending meaning, but mirroring mores. Yet, yield not to the siren of overambition, calibrate complexity commensurate with conquests, lest lexicon's labyrinth in your larynx prioritize polysemy's paucity initially, mastering monosyllabic might before multisyllabic mazes, ensuring each foray fortifies rather than flusters. Another avenue of augmentation. Auditory archives podcasts proliferated with pedestrian patter, from the Joe Rogan Experience, riffing on quotidian quirks to stuff you should know, unpacking universal unknowns, each episode an eavesdropper's emporium for expressions endemic to English's elastic ethos. Transcribe tantalizing tidbits, then transmute them into personal parlance, as Sarah did in her Sabbath suppers with Mark, her sorry, imperfect idiom, segueing into spill the beans on your weekend wins, forging fluency from facsimile. And the ocular oracle of observation body languages ballet, where Blake's barista beam begot belonging, or James's job jamboree jauntiness jettisoned jitters, underscoring that 55% of messages magic per Moravian's metric manifests in mean and motion. Thus, triangulate tone, touch, and timbre tower tall, eyes engaged, timbre temper to transmute tentative talk into tenacious testimony. Ponder, too, the polyglot's pantheon, luminaries like Mandela, multilingual maestro whose mother tongue mastery masked modest English origins, or Schwarzenegger, whose Austrian accent accreted into American archetype through audacious additions. Their tenet, tenacity trumps talent, each faux pas a forge for finesse. In your itinerary, inscribe incremental imperatives, dawn's dozen declamations on diurnal designs, midday's mercantile mimicries mid-munch, vespers voluble vignettes on vicissitudes consistencies cadence carves canyons of capability. Yet, when wilderness whispers wordless voids, or willful withdrawal wield whimsical workarounds, whisper to walls, warble with wildlife, or weave words into whimsical whimsy, like the sun's a golden gossip today, spilling secrets on the leaves. Playfulness purges pressure, permitting progress. Moreover, metrics matter minimally. Eschew exactitude's exaction, embracing Einstein's edict that not everything that counts can be counted. Gauge growth by glee's gleam, by Gab's glide from grind to grace. As we went toward this discourse's denouement, reflect retrospectively. Whence your inaugural English inkling, that fledgling phrase that flickered forth despite fear's fetters? Cherish it as chrysalis, catalyst to current capabilities. And prospectively, Pledge one petite proclamation per diem, perhaps fancy a chat over coffee, to a cubicle comrade, or what's the buzz in your world? To a wayfaring wayfarer, each utterance an updraft uplifting your linguistic latitude. For in this odyssey of oration, you're not merely memorizing morphemes,